Good evening and welcome to the February 24th, 2026 meeting of the East Long Meadow Town Council. I'll call the meeting to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask that we take a brief moment of silence to reflect on all of the events going on both here and abroad. Thank you. In accordance with Mass General Law, this meeting is being recorded by LCAT, and if there's anyone else in the audience recording, if you could identify yourself. Thank you, Cindy. Seeing no one else, public comments. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to make a comment this evening? See no one physically in the audience and no one with their hand raised on Zoom. Council comments. Are there any councilors with a comment?
Please. I just wanted to put out there, I had a resident reach out to me today, complaint with regards to the notification of the delay for our trash. I explained to him, I thought it was just common knowledge that we had a snowstorm. It would probably be extended one day. But what his complaint was is he didn't receive any message until 8:30 this morning that was going to happen. And he said, that's a little late. I told him I would pass it along. So consider it passed along.
Yep.
At earlier notification. And again, I do realize when it's possible.
Yeah, no, that we're always working on our notifications. So, yeah, Renee was answering the phone nonstop this morning to ask. So, yes, we'll continue to work on our messaging and getting that out in a timely fashion.
And he does watch the meetings, so.
Is he there?
Thank you.
Comments. Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Rob.
Seeing none, town manager's report.
Hey.
Hi, Tom.
Good evening. I'll start with a current event and just say thanks again to DPW. Once again, all the roads were clear the next day again after a huge long storm, and I just want to say thanks to them for all their hard work. Those are long days. Most of them, in order to get it done that fast, they're not hanging out chatting in the truck either. They're all by themselves in their truck and just doing their work. So just want to say thanks to DPW once again. Attached are the project reports for the weeks of February 2nd and 9th regarding the high school and natatorium construction. We recently opened RFP and signed or about to sign a lease agreement. We're starting to talk about all the move. The central office employees have to get out of there so that Fontaine can start demo and abatement in that area so that we can hit the first day of school. So central office is located over on the Carter-Mundy campus from like April break through the first day of school. So we're already moving parts to move into a new building. So it's getting real close now. So again, the link for all the information you could ever want on the building project, eastlongmeadowma.gov/ELHS building project. The East of the River Chamber of Commerce, ERC5, hosted a legislative breakfast at Ludlow Country Club on February 10th. In addition to awarding community leaders with cultural impact awards, Senator Jake Oliveira and Representative Aaron Saunders answered questions from local students related to issues affecting our region. Topics included, stop if you heard me this before, transparency, education, and health insurance, sort of the big ones that are affecting everyone these days. Thank you to Executive Director Grace Barone and the entire ERC5 team for organizing an amazing event for our communities. On the same day, members of the town journeyed out to the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy in Stowe in support of Deputy Chief Ed Lenahan. He graduated from the Chief Fire Officer program Ed has been an amazing asset since joining our team, and we're happy to recognize his accomplishment. So congrats to Ed. I also want to congratulate Quinn O'Donnell on his recent promotion to sergeant at our police department. Quinn was originally hired back in February of 2019 and has served his community with distinction. Congrats to Quinn. The design team at VHB hosted a road safety audit for phase 2 of the North Main Street Corridor Improvement Project. The boundaries of phase 2 will be the southern boundary of phase 1, which is just outside the window here on LaSalle Street, and all the way down to Brook Street, including the full redesign of the Westwood intersection, which has more than its share of issues. So Public Works, Fire, Police joined the working group consisting of VHB and various members of the Mass DOT team, analyzing crash data, road geometry, existing deficiencies, and provided some much needed local input that will eventually be put into a design. Shortly after that, we did receive word that phase 1, which I think I had previously told you was a little bit behind schedule. We were expecting an FY27 start, has gone to 25% design. So there's like a bunch of steps in the design process for Mass DOT projects, but 25% design is a big one, meaning the overall layout is satisfactory, and now we start to get into nuts and bolts design, which will be a 75% design, and then the 100, which will go out to bid. It's taken a little while. I feel like we've been talking about North Main Street for 4 or 5 years, because we have, but we'll get to see those investments that we've made in the design, hopefully in the next year or two. Excited about the second part of it too. That Westwood intersection. I think the first time I asked for it, Kathy was president. We on a weekend grabbed a shovel-ready project to get into one of the bond bills, transportation bond bills, which made it, but never got funded. So that intersection needs a whole bunch of upgrades. So that'll be a good one to have on the list. We got crosswalks with jogs in it, T crosswalks. You can't send somebody out into the pavement and not have them land on the other side of the street. So we'll have to, I'm sure that will be part of the design.
I think you can, because we've been doing it for a while.
We have been. So that's it for tonight.
Great, thank you, Tom. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Communications, correspondence, and announcements. The only one that I have this evening is that the fire department is hosting their 2025 recognition ceremony this Friday at 2 p.m. So I'll be there on behalf of the council to present some citations to them.
Nice.
We have no public hearings under orders of the day. Licensing matters, just a brief update on the license revocation that we had at our last council meeting. So the police department had the following morning, which was February 11th, around 11 a.m., went and checked. And at that point, there weren't any coverings over any of the product or signs. Later that afternoon, they did put signs up. And then the following day on the 12th, they did have coverings in addition to the signs. And then the health department did a visit on the 18th, found similar things. And then the 19th, some of the coolers had been emptied, and then the plastic and signs had remained up. So far, it seems like they're working towards compliance.
Do we know the timeline for an appeal?
It was 5 days from the time that they received their certified letter.
Do we know when that was?
It should be past.
We should be past that. Okay, okay.
So I haven't heard any word
right,
of
okay.
from the ABCC, but guess we'll find out if something comes to our direction.
The certified letter, did we do return receipt requested?
Yes.
So at least we'll know when he received it, when he signed for it, so.
Okay.
That was all I had, unless anyone had any other questions. Okay, Seeing none, financial matters. Our first one was a discussion of the high-level budget forecast. Hi again, Tom.
Hey. Oh, here comes Kim too, good.
You wouldn't do it without him.
No. So smart for that. So, hi, Kim.
Hello,
Him.
Welcome.
Just,
Our finance czar.
into this, made a weird noise and
so, again, I, like I said last time, I just wanted to kind of have a big, broad conversation with you about, where we're at, where we were, where we're going. Some specific topics like OPEB, which has come up, our reserves, just kind of a general sort of overview of the whole thing. And I know it seems like things look pretty bleak when we talk about sort of forecasting, and that paper I sent to you from MMA at the beginning of the fall, sort of, basically asking the question, how are communities even supposed to function without having to cut services or go to an override vote every 5 years? So, I won't steal too much of Kim's thunder, because, she did all this nice work for us. But, the recap sheet, you've obviously seen before, but the interesting thing that Kim sort of provided us a projection with. Now, again, we're sort of assuming a status quo with all of the assumptions that we make every year. And the reason we make the same assumptions every year is we have the historical data to back it up. And, within a few percentage points, we always end up in a certain place in a certain way. And this just kind of shows that, projecting out to 2032, that I think the big thing to look at here is the excess levy capacity, which parentheses are not good, that's negative. And again, we have time to change what we're doing and how we're spending, and a lot of things can happen with a lot of these variables. But there's not a whole lot we can do outside of our projections unless we try to make some changes with what we're doing. And really the only thing that we have a little bit of control over here is obviously conservative budgeting and spending, but this new growth line item, and we've talked about it a bunch before, and I think these initiatives about zoning and Centertown District and all these things are sort of pointing at that line, that we've got this sort of steady $500,000 growth number that we've been able to maintain miraculously with our residential development and our businesses here and there. But this is mainly to show that we really, projecting out status quo, we really got to think about what are some of the strategies we can get on board with now, so that we're not having the cutting services conversation, we're not having the trash fee conversation, and we're not having the override conversation. The 2.5 is a real thing, and inflation and our spending is, although has come way down in the last couple of years, it's hard to keep at that level, especially with health insurance and retirement up over 10% every year. These are driving our budget. They're driving everybody's budget. And thankfully, when sort of this trend started, we were in a decent position with our excess levy back in, I think we have some of that historical data back. I mean, we were back at 2.7 million in 2022 and 2023, which, we've had to eat into because of this. We had some irregular budgeting to the tune of $2 or $3 million in our health insurance line item, which sort of has helped us stretch these dollar amounts across this many years. And again, we're still kind of in a spot right now where we look the same as we did last year, which is pretty miraculous. But again, we keep getting there by taking our bare bones budgets and skinning another layer off. And so we're getting to the point where we're sort of running out of that room too. So again, we touched on it a little bit last year with the finding some additional revenue. The new growth is really the number that is most influential, I think. The problem with the other revenue and fees and these kind of things it's the same group of people just paying in a different bill, right? So there's a lot to think about when you're looking at these numbers, and it's really hard to project how you're going to sustain your spending all the way out to 2032. But these are the assumptions, and this is sort of what it looked like. I just kind of wanted to give it a picture. I know we've been talking about, and I'm sure you've heard it in the news, how many communities have been going for overrides as of late, and more historically, probably percentage-wise than any other 10-year, 5-year period. But anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that. Kim, do you want to add anything else? I'm sure.
I feel like you always do such a great job
Oh,
explaining everything that there's not a whole lot that I need to add.
It's not nice. She's just saying that. She's got a whole list.
I'd like to know he's doing his job.
Touched on a lot of the points, but I guess the thing that I would kind of focus on is our excess levy, because we are, in speaking to other towns and cities, we're kind of one of the few in this area that has any excess levy available. And there were a couple things, Tom mentioned that we did have some excess budgeting when I first got here, which we've been slowly kind of dipping into to avoid digging into the excess levy a ton. So the other thing was back, I think in like 2024, state aid went up about $2 million for us. So that was another huge impact that helped the levy. And then, last year we had targeted 1.4 million in excess levy, so that we were only digging into it another 300,000 to support the current budget. Luckily, we did have some prior year growth, amended growth that we were able to go back and get. We had kind of an increased amount of new growth due to subdivisions. So our excess levy ended up at like 1.9 versus the 1.4 we anticipated, which is a huge help going into this year. Because if you look at the draft level, we aimed for 1.4. When we got our actual requests in for level 1, we're negative excess levy. And the majority of that was due to the fact that, the school's level budget is over a 6% increase. So as we're reviewing everybody's budgets in level 2, bringing, the school back down to that kind of 3% target that we're looking at for departments and school, that's the only way that we really get back up to 1.4. And you're still digging into excess levy, $500,000 in order to support current budget's only at 3%. So I think that's the whole point of looking at the projection, because every year, if we just continue to do everything the same, don't make any changes, we have all the assumptions, that we currently have, you're looking at digging into your excess levy, 1.2 million, 1.4 million, 1.6, and it just progresses over time. So I think it just does a really good job of showing you, this assumes 2.5% growth for these projection years for 2028 through 2032. 2.5% on our levy is only $1.4 million, and that goes up a tiny bit every year. And then you're relying on 500,000 in growth. That's assuming we get it. If we don't get it, that's another hit to the levy. And then, just the only other thing we have is taxation, local receipts, state receipts. Local receipts, they only go up maybe 5-6% a year. We don't have a lot of options to increase them other than, reviewing our fees, which we've done. And then your only other options are to continue to reduce budgets, which we do every year. We look line by line, we sit down with the departments, we go through all their budgets. We've been able to reduce budgets, not cut budgets. We've been able to reduce them based on historical spending. So we did have a lot of turnbacks. There were a lot of departments that just aren't spending their money. So that's helped us quite a bit. We've been able to reduce budgets over the past 3 years in order to prevent digging into our excess levy as much as we have. But, if you continue to do it, you're looking at overrides probably starting in like 2030, 2031, 2032. There's always some other options that nobody wants to look at. A lot of towns don't have trash service. They start to charge kind of a subsidized fee that allows, the town to kind of keep a portion of their trash in the budget. And then the fee covers, the additional amount that the budget can't support. We're not there right now, but for the future, those are some of the things that you look at. But the number one thing you look at is growth. How can we, make some decisions that could help support growth for the town so that, we're continuing to grow and increase that levy. Is there anything that I missed?
Oh,
Aisha?
much like me, you talked for a while, but I think you got everything.
Okay.
Does anybody have questions or, I know Ralph, but let Kathy go first.
I go first.
It's up to Connor who goes first.
Connor, I go
I
first.
will start and just say that thank you both for putting it together, because I think
This
year to
is
year,
incredible detail.
we're often so fixated on what next year's budget is that we kind of lose sight of what the
need-
projection is 5 years out. So this is helpful to kind of see the road that we're on and what we might be able to change now instead of running into the catastrophe the year of. So thank you. Kathy, we'll start with you.
Excuse me, just a comment to Tom's query that, do we have any thoughts about how we can do things a little differently? We can't control the utilities. We're at the mercy of all of the utilities. We certainly can't control health insurance. But I think one thing we can control is how we, going forward, negotiate bargaining contracts with all of our units. And you're both a better guess at how many types of negotiation groups you have to work with: police, fire, school has several. What, town employees?
Yep. They have two.
In the past,
W.
I think your guideline was to stick around 2%. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, some of the contracts that are just expiring, we're at 2.5. We're down to 2 at this point. We're still,
I think it's unfortunate.
last 2 contracts have been 2.
Unfortunate as it is, I think we need to look at a leaner parameter for negotiating. Unfortunately, we have a large bargaining unit that did not adhere to your recommendations or parameters, and that certainly cost a significant amount of additional funds. They're on the cusp of successor agreement. I would be very much in favor of directing them to be as lean as they possibly can, because the flip side for us is, you just spoke about the schools right now, level service is still at 6+%. That's going to be impossible to adjust this year. If there is a very, a successor agreement that exceeds the wishes of the finance team, 6% looks like 9 or 10, and so what is the alternative but to shave staff? Nobody wants to do that, but the give back has to be somewhere else. So I would be much in favor of looking at negotiating on the lien side. Every single one of our bargaining units provides some very attractive benefits, not the least of which is subsidized health insurance, but attractive benefits in terms of incentive pay and other things that may be found in a lot of contracts. But what I guess I'm getting at is this is not just a town that gives an hourly wage and then that's it, you go home.
Right.
You have some very attractive employment benefits that, as much as it may not show in the weekly paycheck, they're embedded. My dad used to say, you can't eat hospital bills, so you'd be glad you have an employer that provides you with health insurance. So that would be my 2 cents about, you can take that 2 cents off the bottom line. It'll be for free.
Maybe it needs to be a nickel now that there's no pennies. But
That's right. I think that's an avenue that has some potential for us to help hold the line.
Yeah, and I think that sentiment is out there and being listened to. I think everybody that has a television set or a newspaper knows that this is a difficult time when
Across the nation.
everywhere. And, it's sort of a be thankful for what we got kind of time. And like Kim said, we are reducing budgets every year. Oh, most of that is on the non-salary side, so to speak, right? Because we're seeing that spending. The salary, those always get spent, right? But some of the other line items don't get spent. So, yeah, I mean, it's a balance. It certainly is. But I think we've been talking about, I'm going to get it wrong again, high impact, low cost. Got it. Just some things that we can offer that are those nice benefits to working for a community without too big of a hit to the budget.
Thank you, Kathy. Marilyn?
Hi. I just had a brief comment about, Kim, what you said about reducing budgets. People weren't spending money, and we were able to do that. Does that make up, does that explain the negative 1.36% for town departments?
No, that's actually, so.
Well, that's what it says.
No, so one of the things that we did, because we had the fire department go through their budget this year. Typically, what had happened with the ambulance fund is they would just, as the ambulance fund started to, I guess, as it was funded, they would just move a position into the ambulance fund and pay it through the ambulance fund. So I have the fire chief calculate a percentage. How much time does someone spend in the ambulance? How much time does someone spend in the fire department? And then we broke the salaries down based on that. After doing that, we determined that the majority of the budget is actually the ambulance fund's budget. And the fire department came way, way down due to that. I guess the only concern would be the ambulance fund doesn't necessarily produce enough funds to cover that entire budget. So it's really what was happening in the past. You just had more money sitting in the fire department that was being budgeted in the general fund, and then you had less money in the ambulance fund. Now you have less money being budgeted in the fire department, more being budgeted in the ambulance, but you still would need a subsidy from the general fund over to the ambulance fund to cover it. It just shows up in a lower line item on the recap as opposed to being in the budget, so the budget does look like it's come way down.
So we had a bunch of these conversations last year about the ambulance fund.
Right,
And
Medicare
revenue.
and all that
and this-
stuff.
Right, and so the exercise was, well, if the number is not happening in the ambulance fund anyway, let's look at what an actual is, because it's 20/80 over there at best, like 20 fire, 80 ambulance, right? And so if we're gonna see what the actual number is, let's do the exercise and see what it looks like.
And now when you see the subsidy, you'll know, this is the portion of the ambulance fund that the town is actually subsidizing.
Which,
Yeah.
that's sort of typical when you start an account like this, you have this projection of where it's going to be with the revenue, but for the reasons we talked about last year, that revenue just hasn't got there. Based on the information we had when the fund was started in 20? I don't remember when the ambulance fund was started, somewhere in there. We should have been there already. But because of this split between the cost and what we're collecting from a Medicare, we have to make up that difference, and that's a lot of that subsidy. So this is an actual picture of what work is actually being done by fire and ambulance.
I appreciate that. I didn't want to see municipal departments just fade away. I mean, truly, there, when you go to an override, people support police, fire, and education. They don't often support municipalities because we send out the tax bills. And so, and I just want to make sure that we're taking care of our people too.
Of course. Yep.
And I will point out, this level 2 budget is not complete.
Sure.
We still haven't met with a few departments, and they're the larger departments. So there still could be quite a few changes in that level 2.
Thank you.
I do appreciate that split between the fire and ambulance compared to how it was done in the past. Even though the town might end up contributing the same amount of money, it does make it easier to see where it's actually going as opposed to just kind of being lumped in to one bucket.
Kind of arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just sort of making it look nice, or half and half, or whatever. This is an actual portrayal.
Ralph, your questions.
You sure?
I'm positive.
I'm going to start with the ambulance fund. Last year, you had talked about we had to have so much revenue, so much money sitting in there, that basically in the past, what we had done is allocate funding for it, but that we needed X amount, like a whole year's salary, in order to move forwards.
You need to have the entire budget that you're appropriating for the following year in the fund.
And not the revenues that'll be coming in during the year to cover that. Are we there?
So we do.
Last year, we switched money in all, so we're at that point, correct?
So what we determined was that we could probably support about $2 million of the budget, but the budget is well over 2 million, so that's the amount of subsidy that's sitting in the general fund on the recap sheet. So anything above that 2 million that we could appropriate from the fund would basically be a transfer from the general fund into the ambulance fund. Right now, that number is quite high because it's based on a request with a lot of overtime in it. I'm not sure that that's where it will end up. Again, we have not met with the fire department yet.
And if I understand the ambulance fund correctly, we go on enough calls, and if they were all private calls, the ambulance fund would be turning a huge chunk of money back to the town. But because it's subsidized Medicare, and what Medicare pays for us to go on a call is less than it actually costs us to go.
Correct.
So
Which is 80% of the cost.
I would guess that when we have our senator come in and stuff, that that would be a huge place to start, and to let them know that, hey, at some point, you can't do this. And I guess it's not just for us. I mean, when you look at doctors and all, I mean, I get a bill and it's like, listen, if I have to pay out of pocket, it's $3,000, but because my insurance is paying, it's $287. It seems like the same thing for the ambulance, which just seems ridiculous to me. but again, I rant, nothing you can do about it at the moment. We talked about health insurance. I think the town offers like 3 different plans, don't they, in health insurance? And would it save 4?
Or,
And again, I'm not saying it's gonna happen anytime soon. But if we switched and basically offered one, like most employers, and say, hey, listen, we offer Health New England. If you want the insurance, you take Health New England. Is that a savings to us? I mean, is like Blue Cross Blue Shield cost the town more per employee than what Health New England? And so if they all had to go on Health New England, and again, maybe it's all new employees going forwards or something, and I'm only discussing, I just know most employers, they offer a plan.
So we're part of Scantic Valley.
yeah.
So do you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, what I can tell you is, without having any hard facts, pulled from, I've looked at other municipalities in Scantic Valley, what it would look like to leave Scantic and go to, say, you said Blue Cross Blue Shield. One of the biggest groups that we could go to for that would be the Maya Health Trust and get our benefits through Maya. Their rates are just significantly higher. The trust has done a really, really good job at insulating the municipalities in it as the costs have gone up. The trust was very lucrative through its years of investing and built like itself a really good cushion, and has then taken that cushion and used it over the years to help subsidize some of the drastic health insurance increases. So we've seen significantly lower increases as members of Scantic Valley than other groups have. I think it's like Hampshire, basically Hampshire region version of Scantic Valley, had increases in the teens last year that were, they're looking at it again. We have to be part of a bargaining group for health insurance. So it would really be GIC, their rates are not any better. It would be, again, Maya, and last I looked, their rates were higher. And we get, we have a good group in Scantic Valley where it's not too big that we're not being like overly influenced by other groups' ratings and things like that, but it's big enough that it allows us to kind of get that good benefit. We could always look at what rates would do. There's a lot of timelines for that. We wouldn't be able to do it right now. We'd have to start talking about that maybe in August, September, to look at what rates could be for other years, but I don't really think it would be a significant savings.
So just a follow-up question. I know Scantic Valley has been very good as far as cushioning us. But is that going to catch up with us when they run out of money, and all of a sudden are we going to get hit with a 27% increase one year? Because all of a sudden now they've been paying a portion and now there's no money there to pay it.
That would, you're correct, and that would.
So, I mean, again, if we're going to look out 5 years, 10 years, at what point do all of a sudden we get walloped one year and they say, we don't have anything, all the money that we had in store, we saved, here's your new rate, $2,000 instead of the $700 you were paying.
So what I will say about that, this year is the first year that, what are we at, 11.2?
11.2%.
It's the first year that they've actually started to increase it a bit more, because I think over the past few years, it was only 4%, 0%. I can't remember what it was 3 years ago, but that was significantly lower than what it should have been. And this year it should have been about 17%, and they did 11.2. So what I will say is over the past few years, we have been adding a cushion for that because we didn't want to see a 17% increase or a 20% increase. So this year, when they said it would have been 17, we had anticipated it 18. They subsidized it. So next year, we'll do about 14% instead of 11.2, so that we will have a little bit of a cushion. Because with our cushion, we're only looking at a 6 or 7% increase this year, even though they're doing 11.2. So if we have that cushion again for next year, if those increases go way up,
Right.
then we'll have that cushion. The other thing is, They do say that the GLP-1s are the reason everything is going up so much, and they did determine that we would not cover them going forward. So that, could be a help to those very large increases that we've been seeing.
That's sort of why we've been insistent of budgeting more than
Right.
Scannick Valley has said was going to increase, so that when that cliff happens, we have a parachute.
I didn't want to use that term.
I know you did. I know you did.
And also, I'll also just note that GIC right now is considering covering GLP-1s. And they have a couple different insurance plans, so they may be in a situation where they could go up a lot more by covering that item.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to what you were asking about, like singular plan versus the multiple plans. What's it? Oh. Sorry.
It had to come up.
You got
Name and address for the record, please.
Sorry. So when you were asking about multiple plans and, this year Scantic Valley actually increased their plans based on what the providers were increasing. So Health New England was projecting the lowest increase. So they are actually getting the lowest increase. We say it's 11.2, it's 11.2 overall, but it's actually like 15%, 15%, 8%. So by having different plans, it gives different experience ratings for different providers. And you end up having, so we always have, like, Health New England is typically the less expensive plan that we offer, and then we offer a PPO plan. So having that variety, it helps us to be able to kind of have some plans that stay lower. Where if you only have the one, you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket.
And the one last thing I wanted to bring up is we've been talking about growth. If we're talking growth as far as new housing, stuff like that, it also comes with an expense. If you put that new house in and, hey, yeah, we're gonna get $18,000 a year in tax revenue, that's great. Except if they have 2 kids in school, now all of a sudden you're in the negative instead of the positive. So although it sounds great, let's get more money in growth. Sometimes it actually hurts the town more than it helps the town.
All growth
Again-
is not created equal.
You were hoping
correct.
to use that word.
Thought of that right now.
No, it's like the comment that comes up often, right? Like, why do we have so many banks? Well, bank's not a bad business to have in town, right? For that reason.
And I think that's, my point is, we don't have to look at just, residential structures growth that way. I mean, some of the growth is our fiber optics. If we get that going and we get a 50% take rate, hopefully the revenue is more than the cost, and hence that'll start contributing to the town. I know we had talked about, electric and stuff like that, and if we can get in on a plan to help us offset some of those costs. So I think there's multiple ways to do it, but
Yep.
it's hard to project it because I don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
So we do the best we can on a year-to-year basis, steering ourselves in the right direction.
Yeah, because if we're getting that 500,000 in new growth that we're budgeting, which we normally do, that's what we've been doing, right? Subdivisions and housing and the
Right.
occasional upfit of, we just have a new tenant in Cartamundi. There's still places to allow this development to happen. We just need to look at if there's other places that we can change what we do to allow some more. But again, you're exactly right.
It comes at a cost. I mean,
All-
it comes
it
plowing the
depends, right?
streets,
Yeah.
taking care of everything. Police having to do more calls, ambulance service doing more Medicare calls, like I said. So there's a cost to growth too. And,
Yeah.
it looks great. Hey, 500,000, this is awesome. Except if it's costing you 600,000 to make that 500,000, it's not so good.
Yes. It's not in this line.
No, I think that's where you're right, that there can be some kinds of growth that have costs, but there are others that would definitely be more beneficial to the town from that perspective. Like, I would agree, if the only growth that we continued to have was single-family home subdivisions, like, it's great for people to live in, but it's a huge expense to the town because the town has to plow the streets, et cetera, kids in school, all that kind of stuff. But other types of complexes, like what we were talking about years ago, the mixed-use village thing, the town's not really responsible for nearly any of that, mostly bringing revenue into the town with very little town expense comparatively. So things like that could be advantageous. Marilyn, you had another?
So another comment or question. Nursing homes, how many do we have in town? I thought someone said 5, I can't name them.
I know, I think there's actually 6.
Does that include assisted living? Because assisted living, my understanding, is for profit, so they pay taxes. So it would be the nursing homes that are, that can be exempt. Do we have arrangements with them for a payment in lieu of taxes?
No, but we are looking into it.
Oh, thank you.
It's, again, not an easy time to go asking people for money.
Right.
But we do have a sort of list of calls to make. That's sort of something that we identified as an option. We do have plenty of people on the pilot program.
Okay.
And so that's something we have to look into, yeah.
And, that goes along with ambulance runs. If not everybody in a nursing home is on Medicaid. However, many of them are. And, they're not paying any taxes, and we're subsidizing, or we're just sending, we're taking care of their people, which is what we should do in terms of ambulance runs. But I just wondered about that piece in terms of, we lose money there, we're not getting any taxes from them, and would be nice if we could negotiate something. Use that as a bargaining chip. We won't come pick up your people anymore.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Marilyn. Oh, sure.
I just had a quick question about the insurance. What's the percentage of the town, that the town picks up versus the employee?
70-30.
70-30, okay.
And then
50/50.
it was a good segue. Retirees are 50-50 after they get to Medicare age, right, which is 65.
They're 70-30 still prior to that.
So that was our conversation earlier, and sort of this OPEB letter that Kim gave us for tonight was, we were wondering the cost for our retirees benefits is almost $2 million. And we have, what's the number? What's our balance in OPEB?
15.7.
So we were trying to figure out,
We have it in there.
yeah. So we were trying to figure out when it's advantageous to use that money, because it's for current and future liability. And obviously we have current liability, and it's almost $2 million. And so we were trying to figure out if there was a way to, not use all that money, obviously, because we want to continue to grow that until we're at the 100% liability. But this letter sort of states that it's not really a good idea until you're at 70% of your liability, which, what did he say, 30 years?
You will be at 64.14 in 30 years.
At doing what we're doing,
100,000 a year.
yeah, doing what we're doing right now, right?
Right. Right now, we're been adding roughly 100,000 a year. That's what they're basing it on.
Right, and the
We've
last,
done more than that in the past. We've put in $1 million here, $1 million.
That's included. So when they do the analysis, they look at everything you've,
well,
everything you've,
liabilities keep going up in cost too every year. Insurance goes up, so does that, right? I mean, sorry, go ahead.
no. So when they do the analysis, they take what your current balance is, any additional money you put in, right? So that includes anything you've done additional in the past, what we did last year. I think we did an extra 500,000 or 600,000, something like that. And this assumes all of that, and then it assumes we put in 100,000 a year going forward. And it assumes how much we will earn in the fund. So it's already accounted for, all of the earnings, it's already accounted for our $100,000 policy. That would bring us to the 64.14 in 30 years. that's why, and we have an OPEB draft policy at this point. We don't have an approved one. But in that policy, I think it's a really good idea to include, that we'll do the 100,000 annually. If we can do more, if we have free cash that we can put in there, we should totally do that. We want to get to this point as quickly as possible so that we can not have to rely on the general fund to support the retirees. And then, the other thing that you can do, there is this large amount, which I can't get a really good number for, and I don't want to give you a number until I know exactly how much it is. But there is a portion of our payment that goes to the retirement every year that is funding our unfunded liability. That is supposed to stop in 2037, I think.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner. It's not that far. So that's supposed to stop in 2037. And at that point, all that extra money that's currently in our budget, we could include in our policy that we would take a portion of it or all of it and start putting it into the OPEB fund so that we could get to that finish line quicker. It's, some towns already have it in their policies. And we don't have to say we're going to do 100% of it, but I think it's a good thing to have in the policy.
That's one that would be interesting to me, because I thought it was a neat idea up until seeing that we shouldn't do that sort of thing until we get to a higher percent. But I wonder if this would be similar to the discussion we had about 382 North Main, like if we were to chase funding OPEB too hard, are we spending a lot of money in the interim just to try to save $2 million in the future when the time value of that money over the 30 years now is much more beneficial to do with something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good comparison for sure. And this liability is only going to go up, right? So we really don't have a choice to stop.
We don't have a choice to stop, but I suppose I personally wouldn't be in favor of making it more than we need to, or taking excess money when we could use that to, I don't know, support the levy gap that we have.
Well, you don't really want to support the.
No, I know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. There's other places.
A lot of other things.
Yeah. Yep. No, and again, this is the whole balancing the budget, right? That we have, this is the point of this whole conversation is there's all these things to look at, and depending on which lens you're looking at it through, yeah, that seems like a good idea, but you're going to lose something over here. It's got to all even out at the end. But since we had brought it up, we just wanted to make sure that we hit on this OPEB, and that, even though we are high up on all the lists for where we're supposed to be funded percentage-wise across the state, we're not at a point where we can start chipping away at our current liability in the budget. Or we shouldn't, is sort of the advice, right? We can do whatever we want. But I think, other than the fact that it would take us away from the finish line a little bit, that's not something that lenders want to see you doing with your OPEB fund.
At the very least, you want to be following your policy. And if we start taking funds out, all of the assumptions are, they know what our interest should be. They know what our investment income should be. Those are in the assumptions here, and they're in our policies. So doing it at this point wouldn't wouldn't be recommended.
Makes sense.
Through the chair.
Sure.
So if I read this correctly, our liability went from 65 million down to 60 million based on retirees and what they're taking and stuff like that. So that's good news. That's $5 million. And we have 15 million in it. So we're only talking 45 million.
Right.
Just putting it out there. It's actually, when we started looking at it, it's actually better, with the percentage where we're at than most of the towns in the Commonwealth. But I appreciate this because it gives us a heads up as far as, you really shouldn't be taking any money out right yet. what did they say, 2081 if we're taking money out and it would run out?
Did you say 2081?
I think that's what it said in.
I don't think I got that.
About that.
Yeah, if we did what we want to do,
Oh.
but
Yeah.
that timeline gets pushed out,
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah, something like that. It was
Which, I mean, East Long Meadow's still gonna be here,
crossover
so
point.
Right.
True.
we have to do our part to make sure this keeps heading towards 100%.
At least 64%. Serious, it would be nice to hit 64% and be the first one in the state to be able to actually say, hey, this is the tipping point. But again, we're talking a huge amount of money. It's not like we're gonna be pulling that out in the next few months.
Yeah, and
Years.
again, our investments have done very well. That's not a guarantee. But, you know, if it continues to perform like that, it's just gonna be on a larger balance every year. So, you know, maybe we'll be a little more fortunate and we see this kind of growth in this account for the next few years.
My only final comment is, I think there's avenues within the budget and within contracts and all that we have to actually look at. You know, and it may be down the road, not right away or anything, but we may have to look like a, you know, private company where, hey, you know what, we can't afford 70-30 anymore for health insurance. Starting at such and such a point, we cut back to 50-50. Again, these are just different items down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be other ways. I mean, like you said, Kathy, with the school, I think our net school spending was what, 70%, 73%?
I don't remember the percentage offhand.
73.2, I believe it was. But with that, you have to look, I mean, we constantly get bombarded with our residents. We pay a lot in taxes. What are you doing with our money? Where's it going? And when you tell them, well, the school's taking 70% and, you know, within the other 30, we're doing capital projects, we're running the town, we're running the DPW, and they don't want to hear that.
Well, and
They
then,
want their roads fixed and they want everything else done, but they also want us to spend money on education for kids. And it's like, hey, it only goes so far.
well, that was part of the other conversation here was there's other things that we really have to do to be financially responsible as a community. And yeah, that's not a sidewalk or a road, but it's really important that we do this. And it's a necessity, right? I mean, so thanks for starting the OPEB conversation. We were really,
were doing
this was
pretty
my,
good.
so when I read the MGL and it said current and future liability, I immediately was like, current, to me, seems like the current year. Can we try to shave some of this off the general fund budget? But we can, but it doesn't seem like that is a prudent move at this point.
I appreciate you researching it, though. Leaving no stone unturned.
Try not to.
Good, yeah.
And then I think we had sort of we wanted to sort of let you know about it's not really changing a policy, but sort of a little bit of a pivot in terms of what we want to keep in, well, stabilization has always been 8%, which we've hit, and we're over. And so the free cash piece of that was between, the policy says between free cash and stabilization should be around 13%, no less than 13, which left 5% in free cash. And we, because of the position we're in, want to keep a little more in free cash. One, it's revenue for the general fund. Whatever that free cash makes goes into the general fund, whereas OPEB and stabilization, those stay in their funds. And also, we've been doing a fair share of borrowing from ourselves and for short-term borrowing. And we'd like to continue to do that because we're not paying any interest on short-term notes. And we can do that if we continue to keep our balances where they're at, to borrow money from ourselves before we go out to borrow. It's really, it's going to save us a ton of money in the long run in terms of interest payments. So again, no real change to that policy because free cash is at least 5%. So I think we're going to try to do an 8 and 8. So to give us a little more cash flow so we can do that borrowing from ourselves. I think I just wanted to have a further discussion about, I had some thoughts on the remainder of that free cash that we have sitting there is like 11 and a half. I don't want to get the numbers wrong. It's somewhere 11.6.
We have 11.6. If you retain 6.3, you'll have about 5.3 available.
So we're talking about putting 5.3 into the community in some way, shape, or form. And the way I've broken that down in my head is about $1.5 million towards specific paving projects for next year. $2 million. And again, I need to figure out, we're not at the finish line yet, but $2 million for fiber. Start the rollout of that plan. What else we have on it? There's certainly an OPEB
OPEB 5.
contribution at some point, I think is a really good idea.
Capital stabilization.
Put some money in that capital stabilization fund. Again, the policy doesn't necessarily require a budgeted amount go into that every year, but I think when we have money, we should put some money in there. The Maple Shade roof. We have the MSBA money. Or is that meeting tomorrow? That meeting is tomorrow. So we'll find out tomorrow. We'll assume MSBA is on board. We had the 800,000 from other projects that we already borrowed for school. And then was it 700,000-ish would put that project to bed. And since we have the money in free cash, I think it's probably a good idea instead of borrowing 700,000 when we go borrow everything else. So
250.
Just I'm earmarking some, I'm telling you this, obviously there's no votes in front of you tonight. But I'm sort of maybe expecting that there could be next meeting. But I want to hear your thoughts on it. We have some money set aside for the 250th. We haven't put anything in that account that we created by the GL. We keep having this conversation every year about our budgets that have anomalies from year to year. And this year we're looking at the election account and whether or not we want to budget for multiple elections in any given year, just for that budget to come back down the following year. Meaning it's a pseudo one-time expense that happens every 4 years, so to speak. But rather than mess with the budget, we can sort of pay for those costs of a state election with our retained earnings, with our free cash. This is a new one this year. We're still in the budget process. I don't know if that's actually going to be how it goes down. But that was part of our thought process. We're trying to not, we're trying to not tax for this expense that it will not be there the following year. We had this conversation and it hasn't happened yet when it first came up with the assessing budget, because they do the full every 5th year. And so that budget jumps like 60 grand, which is a tough hit, especially in a year like this when $60,000 makes or breaks somebody's budget. So that's the thought process there is trying to keep these budgets as level as possible so that we can plan them out. And if we need to pay more for multiple primaries and elections, we can do so with our bank account. Yes.
could, with elections, if there's an estimated amount that you would expect for
Yep.
an election and you divide it by 4 years or however many years, is there a way to encumber that money for 1 year, and then, so that the total of the 4 would be the cost of one election?
Yeah, we'd end up rolling it back because it wouldn't get spent in the year that there wasn't. And then we'd budget it again. We'd,
Put it in the account, so you don't have to budget.
it's the same function,
Right.
right? It's the same, it's the
Put it
same
in the
function.
bank.
We're either,
Can't do that.
we're either not budgeting it so that we're not taxing everybody on it and then paying out of free cash, or budgeting it and rolling it back to free cash just to budget it again. So you're not taxing everybody the full amount every year. Does that make sense?
Well, that's what she's saying, I think.
Yeah, but
25% over for a year, so each year you
Right.
pay 25%, and it just rolls in free cash, and then you pay for it on the 4th year. You guys are saying the
it's the
same
same thing.
thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking if you could keep rolling it over the 4 years so that it would be available.
From election to election, but if you know what your costs are gonna be and you're budgeting something for 1 year that you don't use, if you could put it in a reserve account or something for that purpose.
Oh, election stabilization fund.
Say that.
Ding.
Please, no.
Well,
These are all good thoughts, because we, for most of this stuff, we've just done things the way we've done things. And there's other ways to think. There's other ways to do this stuff. We have been, last year was the first year we took it out. We've been budgeting a primary for a local election since you became a council.
Yep.
Never used it. Never used that money. So every single year,
First year.
the first year, sorry.
You know that.
32
Yes, the
candidates.
first year, you're absolutely correct. There was 30-something, right?
32.
So, but after that, didn't use it once. So we said, why do we continue to budget for this when in all likelihood, it's not, this will be the year it happens, obviously. Yeah.
Good thing you have plenty of free cash.
This is a good thought process, because you don't have to keep doing things the way you have always done them. There's other ways to look at it. And this was an attempt to sort of remove things out of the budget, and we pay for these costs with free cash. Again, I don't know if we still have a bunch of departments to go through, so I don't know if we need to take it out of Jackie's election budget yet. We keep doing, it's like every other year, we're trying to figure out what we're budgeting in that account. And I want to try to find a way to make it so we can project it out. Did I miss anything on that list?
The free cash?
Yeah,
No.
all right. But again, I'm all ears. That's a pretty sizable chunk of money from a couple years of rollbacks. Obviously, we've invested very well with our borrowing. We have to make sure that I guess another reason to not spend it all right now is we do have one more ratings call in August for the last borrowing for the school. And so we just want to make sure we're still in that good, very solid financial position when we borrow one more time. But again, if we're at 8 and 8, we're in great shape, and we had more than we had last year. I think you remember us saying there was a couple of parameters that we had to make sure we kept our eye on so that we didn't lose our rating. We didn't have to answer too many questions that we just answered in November. So again, those are some of my thoughts. I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts on spending money.
Or not.
Ralph?
So the capital stabilization fund, if you read it, it says, yes, we should have 8% in there. But it also says that we should,
Capital or the stabilization?
Just the regular.
sorry, regular stabilization, 8% is what's listed. But it also says that when you use any money out of it, that you shouldn't go below 8%, which would tend to mean that we need more than 8% in capital stabilization if something else is gonna come up. And what do we have in there now? I thought we said right around 8%.
We have, we 6.7 million, target would be 6.3, so we're like 350 over budget
Which means that's what,
target.
which means we can only use 350,000 out of that.
Right, but what's the revenue on that account up to January?
Revenue up to January is 332,000.
So we're actually at almost 700,000 over the thing, but
But wouldn't it make more sense to have additional monies in there that we can use when we need it and not drop below that 8%?
well, we can use free cash for that.
The problem with free cash is from July 1st to October 1st, you can't use it.
Right.
So hence the reason with the free cash, if you have it, it should go into different stabilization accounts or used for projects or whatever.
So I think the point would be.
Otherwise, we have a
hopefully-
fund here of money just sitting there, and we can't really use it, because if we do use it, it's gonna affect our bond rating, because we're gonna drop below to 8%, so there's really no money in there
Yeah,
to be used.
It's a combination of the reserves, but again, I think the point is if, in the event that you have to use your stabilization fund, which would only be for an emergency,
Right.
you need to get back up there post haste, right? That's the policy, that's what it says. So if you have money, maybe you don't put it into OPEB, you put it back into stabilization to get back up into policy. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I don't think of extra funds like that. I think of a stabilization fund. Hey, an emergency came up and we've got an extra $1 million in that fund to use because we've thought ahead and put it in there. Where this is basically, hey, use it, but guess what? Next year you had better tax like crazy because you got to make up all that money.
So I think the way to look at the stabilization fund is it's kind of a disaster fund, right? I mean, if something terrible happens and we need an excessive amount of money, you would be able to use that fund. The policy just states that you're going to put 100,000 in there until you reach your target. So if you did have to utilize a portion of that fund because of an emergency, you would just continue to keep putting 100,000 in there until you reach that target again.
Understood, but how's that going to affect us when someone looks at us for bond rating? And hey, you've used all this money.
No, of course.
Hey, you're not looking too good anymore.
You know, the hope would be that if you're putting another 600,000 to 700,000 in this fund every single year from interest, you're going to be well above that 8%. I know the target moves because your budget moves. But I think that's something we have to evaluate on an annual basis.
Exactly.
Right.
And then, you know, once we get up even a little bit further past that 8%, you know, you can always create a policy that states a portion of the interest that's earned on the fund will use for one-time expenses, transfer it over to something else, use it for something specific. Maybe not right now because you only have 350 over, but soon.
Or when you get up there, you switch it to capital stabilization fund,
Right.
something on that idea.
Sort of, there's no reason to get to 14%,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or it could even be like if one fund now has an excessive amount over the target, any extra interest goes to one of the other funds that's
Right.
below a target or something.
Right. Yeah. However you want to vote.
there's a lot of moving parts in it.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
And, sorry, Connor, am I under the assumption if we vote to move the free cash and use it here or there, and something comes up in 6 months, we can always change and say, hey, I know we set it aside for this, we're no longer gonna use it for that, we're gonna use it over here.
I'm sorry, what did you want to do?
The answer was yes. Done.
No, I mean, you can't take the money out if we put some in OPEB, right? That's sort of what we were just saying. We're not touching that.
Right.
In case of a catastrophic event,
Yep.
can you borrow from your money that's sitting in OPEB?
No,
Can you borrow against it?
no, no.
Are you sure? Please check into that, because from what I understand, you can. It's your money sitting there. If you need to borrow against it, you're actually able to. That's what I understood through a conversation with another gentleman. But it is, but I'm talking catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean,
Something to break the glass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
let's hope
Let's hope we never
we don't get past our 8% stabilization fund.
that goes quick.
Yeah.
I feel like you might be talking about the internal borrowing, where they basically take your stabilization fund balance, your free cash balance, and then they determine that you can borrow from yourself, which is what we kind of talked about. But I didn't think OPEB was listed on there. I thought it was just
I don't think
general
it is.
stabilization and your free cash. But I will double check.
Yeah.
OPEB should be listed on there,
Check.
especially for us, because we were
And
quite a
then
bit in there.
the last sort of moving part with the budget and another reserve fund, unfortunately, it won't last very long, but there's going to be a energy credit stabilization fund. So the new high school had some estimate of a $600,000 electric bill per year, 100% electric building. We won't have PV on top of it when it opens. And so we want to offset the money that we got for rebates for building the school all electric from Grid, which is 1.3. Thank you, Kathy. And we want to put that in an account and use that money to offset the bill until PV comes online. Not the whole increase, because that just is going to create a hole in the budget. But we can expect 30% from the solar. And so we'd like to use that money to fund that 30% until it comes online, and then we can put that whole rebate into the general fund and sort of cancel that account. But
And it usually takes upwards of a year before they go live with it.
yeah, at least. And that timeline could be a year or 18 months. Again, we're only budgeting for 9 months of a school year in 2027, because the building won't come online until September. So we're trying to sort of calculate that out and figure out to use some of that money from the rebate to offset that electric bill. So it's not this huge increase. I know that sounds bad. We also had a $300,000 gas bill at the high school, which is obviously going away now. Or most of it is going away. So the offset is really only like 300, and then we'll take out whatever we expect to generate at the PV, and use that money with your blessing, obviously. But we can't handle that much of a jump in that budget when we know we should be receiving that benefit from the solar. So
The warehouse, any chance that we will have that in terms of tax revenue in the future?
no comment.
Okay, I hear you. That's a shame. Yeah.
We'll wait to see how it plays out.
Okay. Anything else?
Good discussion.
Under stabilization and reserves.
Thank you.
We've got compensated absences reserves at 104%. Being that we've reached 100%, are we actually using that fund to?
Yes, so when somebody leaves and we pay out vacation, or when somebody leaves at the school, if there's a retirement bonus, something like that, those come out of that fund.
So we are using it.
So we continue to replenish that at $75,000 annually.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
I have more.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later in the week.
I think that
Can't wait.
pretty much covers all of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Kim.
Kim.
Thank you.
Very thorough.
Anything else from anyone on the budget or the free cash?
Yeah, I jumped agenda items on you, sorry.
I mean, I think overall on the free cash side, I think I'm mostly in general agreement with most of the projects. I would question the OPEB one personally, but the rest of the other four that you mentioned, I think sound like the same sort of goals we've been talking about for a while, so those make sense to me.
The only thing I would say, as far as you mentioned, doing roads, I would like to know what roads and at what cost.
Yeah,
Instead of, I mean, in the past, we took out a bond to put into sidewalks.
Yep.
And at least when I put it forwards, the thought process was, hey, we can get a lot better deal on concrete and asphalts if they've got a $1.2 million, budget, and we can have, 20 sidewalks or 4 miles done or whatever. And instead, they just took the money, put it in an account, and they're slowly taking it out, which completely went against what we were thinking. I mean, our thought process was use it all right away, get all of these done, and then we'll slowly pay for it with the 75,000 a year that we were setting aside. And it just didn't work out that way. So I think the only way to combat that is to say, yeah, we'll allocate, 1.5 million to do these roads.
So sorry, go
I was gonna say that was something that Tom and I have been talking about at length too, and yeah, because previous years, we would just say, oh, if we got, 900,000 in chapter 90 funds, but then we'll add an extra 500,000, but we never really knew what it was going towards, or it never did enough of a stretch to make progress. But if we're going to allocate extra money, it'll be because we know we can do this entire segment and this is what it's gonna be for.
That perfectly said. That was the direct. So instead of putting a request in for a nominal amount of money for paving, I've asked Mark to put together an actual project with an actual estimate. That will be added to the capital plan.
Perfect. Good job.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, great job.
Okay, if there's nothing else on the budget, we will move to approval of our minutes from February 10th.
I approve to move the February 10th, 2026 open session minutes.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Next, under old business, we had the 250th anniversary recurring topic. I know an idea that had been thrown out at I forget which meeting, a couple meetings ago, was having like the same sort of shirts for, like the council and town manager and that sort of thing. But before I looked into it, did anyone have any preference on what those might look like? Are we thinking like a polo shirt kind of thing, or?
Hockey sweaters. I say.
Team USA. I like the polos personally.
Good.
But whatever the pleasure of.
Yeah, okay, I'll look into that.
Do you have
I
any
mean, I
thoughts?
thought we should get sashes, but I guess.
You guys are gonna wear sashes?
Hawaiian shirts.
Or you guys could wear.
I'm kidding, I'm fine. Polo's good. Polo's fine.
All right, I will look into that.
Or tuxedos.
Yeah. That'll be the one day it's 102 degrees.
That's right.
Exactly.
I don't know if you had anything.
I don't have anything really concrete to add. We are meeting Thursday morning, so I can have a little bit more of an update. The group is sort of reassembled, so to speak, and it looks like we've got a timeline pretty much all set, and we're going to start, doling out tasks and advertising and the whole thing. But like I said, we're going to meet Thursday morning, and I will update you next time.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom.
Nice, very nice.
And next, under old business, we had the transfer station waste oil tank replacement. This was something that we had talked about a number of meetings ago, and I think you have an update for us, Tom.
Yep. So we ended up getting some, as luck would have it, the budget meeting with DPW was yesterday, and they were out doing something else. I don't know. They all canceled on me. So I don't know where this sits in their budget submittal yet. However, this is the cost of replacing that tank. I think in Bruce's email to me, depending on the size, obviously, that we'd be looking at an additional, whichever tank we decide, an additional four or $5,000 for a concrete slab.
Yeah.
Stairs, signage. DEP is going to have a lot of input on what needs to be on this, what needs to be around it, what can't be around it, this kind of thing. So again, we realize that it's been there forever and that it provides a service to the community. the thought was, it's a little bit of an environmental liability, even though it's on a landfill. But like everything else, the regulation of the DEP has caused some of those operational costs to rise, inspections, this kind of thing. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was either for or against putting it back before we spent the money to do it, because again, it is a bit of a liability and work for DPW to handle DEP. Yes,
Two things.
sorry.
I'm sorry, two things come to mind. The first one is, if we don't have it, what are they doing? What are our residents doing with the, I mean, are they dumping it somewhere? Is that becoming
Well,
environmental? I know.
This is the conversation we had with the dump pass and everything else, right? If you price people out of a place, they're gonna go somewhere else and do something with it, which is not good. Almost everywhere you can buy oil, you can bring oil. So for most of us, if I change the oil in my car in my driveway, I can bring that old oil to Napa when I buy oil. I don't change my own oil. I don't have the skill set for that.
Anybody?
Again,
Now with these cars,
Second piece,
it would be easier probably to get rid of your oil at the dump.
right. In terms of that operation being an potential environmental hazard, I would think that there might be some way to contain the area so that would, if there was a spill, that it would be within a certain.
Yeah,
So that should help offset that.
Yes, and I think from the conversation from last time, I think it's a lot easier to pour oil into these things than the one we had. We had a bad setup in an old building and, trying to pour a 5-gallon pail, down a candy cane. So again, it's not so much that we're worried about a big, huge spill in an old tank like the old one. It's just that it's one more thing that will be regulated, that we will have to have inspected, and it will just be an operational cost. Now, albeit, we've always had it because we've always had one there. So we're not adding cost. It's become a bit of a difficult thing to deal with DEP up at the dump. And so before we put this back, we want to make sure that everyone's on board. That's all.
is it operational now?
No.
No, we took it out after the spill, right? So they found, I guess the tube had disconnected from the actual
was
tank.
going out, yeah.
So when you were pouring in, it wasn't going into the tank, it was going into the concrete
Into the
containment area.
landfill.
No, the containment
No, I know.
area. I mean, we're on TV, so no, nothing
I
was
know, no, of course not. And it was cleaned. It was tested and cleaned, that the whole site was cleaned up. That was the,
How long is it unoperational?
oh, man. Yeah. It was the,
February 14th, 25.
yeah,
A year to the dead.
25. Yeah, we're close.
24 is 2 years.
That 1 year.
24?
I don't
It
know,
was-
we came up with the date.
Yeah,
when
it
we
was-
found it, but
It was the Zoom meeting. You were in the conference room.
So that probably.
So that might have been 2
Yeah.
years
2
ago.
years.
so the whole thing is at that time, we were under the assumption that we were working towards putting a new one in.
Right.
Hence, when I see a revised proposal, it makes me believe that we already received a proposal on the cost of
Correct.
this, and it never got to the council to approve.
Right.
So,
Is anybody missing this?
I hear from a lot,
Except for Ralph.
I hear from a lot of people, well,
Yeah, how
you just went
popular.
up on our stickers for the transfer station and you took away this and you're taking away that and now you're charging for this and that and. Well, no, that's what I'm saying is, it seems like we're going up on the price and we're taking away services,
Yep.
which stinks.
Yep.
I do have a couple questions. So what size was our existing tank? that we-
That I'd have to look back on, but
And do we have any idea of how often that tank was emptied? Do we need the larger tank? Would the smaller tank work?
yeah, this would have all been questions I would have asked Bruce
Right.
if it was in his,
And that's why when it's
request.
on LCAT, you'll be able to remember these questions.
yes. So the question becomes, do we need the large tank, right? This would undoubtedly be an increase in Bruce's budget. Therefore, we'd have a big conversation about why this line item went up. And so why do we want, I know they don't want it, but if we were to do it, is this tank, do we need a bigger one than we had or a smaller one? So that's the other part of the environmental piece is we're not testing the oil before it goes in there.
Right.
It gets tested when they haul it away. And if it's like the rest of our dumpsters, people throwing stuff in there that is not okay,
So
we don't pay the price per gallon to get rid of it that we thought we were going to.
Right.
So if it's contaminated oil, then we end up paying more for that. Again, it's hard for us to know if I walk in with a substance in an oil container, you just assume that I'm dumping oil in there.
Is there a litmus test? You can
Dipstick.
Yeah,
Could we look back at prior years, though, since we would have had to have been doing that to see what our actual disposal cost is?
yep.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it's still a reasonable amount, I think it's still a valuable service, but if we find we were spending hundreds of thousands
Right.
to dispose of this, then maybe it's
That,
not
and it
worth it.
guards against people not going back to Napa or wherever
Right,
and just taking matters into their own hands and dumping it somewhere.
right, which we don't want, of course we don't want. And again,
We have no way to measure that.
this is not a question of, I think we've talked about this enough to know that the transfer station, does not make money. Even though we went up for $10, we're offering more of a service to the community than they're paying for. This is just another example of that. So it's not about saving money, certainly. If there's enough people, and it sounds like the input is, we really liked that service, we want it back, we'll put it back. We're still in the red at the transfer station, whether it's there or not.
So one of my other questions is, does the DPW still use their waste oil burner for heat?
In the
And
garage?
have we ever used any of the waste oil we've collected for the heating of?
So no, because the waste oil burner is permitted by DEP. And that all has to be tested before it's burned. And if more than the parts per million is burned in there, so they're not gonna people used to leave oil outside the garage doors thinking that we took it. Can't burn that. Because I don't know what's in there.
Right.
And if we are outside of our permit for any reason, then the town of East Long Meadow gets fined.
So what are they using in their waste oil burner? We're not purchasing oil
No, whatever, when they do all the oil changes to all the fleet.
to the fleet.
Yep. And they'll burn that oil.
And that was
They
my
know that's what
question.
that is.
That they know that, right, exactly. They put it in there, they took it out.
Right.
Integrity.
Oil's taken away and they have to test it to see if it's contaminated or not. Is there anyone that can test it on site?
Well, this would be an added cost, right?
I'm just saying.
No, I get
They
it.
test it and the oil's good and you got 396 gallons instead of,
Right.
and again, I'm just trying to think outside the box. I hate to pay someone to take it away if we can burn it and keep our
Especially
DPW
since-
workers warm.
Most of it, this is like the whole trash conversation, most of it costs this much to haul away. But somebody put one Coke bottle and now the whole thing costs this much to take away. So again, I guess I'll get more information on what we've been paying from the transfer station to maintain this whole process.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't get all the information or hear all the information when Bruce was explaining, this is an environmental nightmare. Maybe he didn't mean cleaning this up as a pain in the butt. It's actually costing a lot of money. So I think what I'm hearing is we should put this back. That's what I'm hearing.
Just a thought occurred to me, when we have those annual hazardous waste days
Yep.
collection, was motor oil one of the things you could, you could drop off?
I don't know. I don't.
did, so-
Did you? Okay.
So it'd be interesting to know, of course, I know it's regional, so it wouldn't just be, wasn't it last time over in Minichog? at Minichog High School or
We
one
did
of the
one in
places?
town at the fire department.
Fire department.
Okay,
Back over the summer.
And it's scheduled the summer again.
Yeah.
We had to schedule it like the next day to get a July date.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like nobody does this anymore, so the prices are astronomical.
it'd be interesting to know what portion of the drop-offs was oil versus
Yeah,
paint or whatever.
so they
Paint.
basically on that day, were taking unlabeled liquid,
Yep.
because I brought some of that.
Really, 'cause it says on the thing, everything had to be labeled.
Well, they took it. Trident, whatever, sorry,
Okay.
maybe I didn't. Yeah,
It does say it on there because I've got stuff at my house that I'm like, I don't know, the label came off and.
so maybe there's a solution to testing at least some of the oil. Again, this.
Again, I don't know.
Yeah, this will be.
Lots of questions.
This will be either, cost for whoever's taking this away or some sort of supply chain for our guys to test oil, but
And maybe that even makes the case for the smaller of the tanks, because then there's less risk of contamination, making the cost higher.
okay.
But again, part of my concern was if we can't get a hauler to come in on a regular basis and pump it out and use it, then you need the bigger tank to hold it.
Yeah,
But I think there's just more questions.
yes. I think, it seems to me that this is something that should be at the station or put back. It was already there. If you think that enough people have reached out to say, we liked having this option, you just cranked our rate up, 20%. We'd like to drop our oil off there if we can. That's not an unreasonable thing to say. That was already a perk of having a dump pass. So, let me make sure that there's some
Yeah.
crazy costs
Right.
that I didn't gather from Bruce's argument.
Great. Well, thank you for the update, Tom.
Tom.
Yep.
Created more questions.
Well, hey, that's what happens.
Okay. Next, under new business, we had a discussion on the April 19th, 2024 Police Department Investigation Report. So this was something that I had brought up at our last meeting under the announcements that we would have this discussion, which in part had stemmed from the article that had been reported on this report that had been conducted. And we wanted to, both from the council perspective, ask and answer questions, but also questions that, as the council had heard from the public, try to share some answers, at least to questions that we can talk about publicly anyway at this time, so that everyone has the same set of facts and understanding around the matter. So thank you to everyone on the council for submitting your questions to myself. I had shared those with Tom, and he had then kind of compiled them all and put some answers together for each of those. There were definitely a lot of overlap in terms of a lot of the same questions that everyone had, both in the public and on the council. So in no particular order, I figured we could just sort of run down through the list, and we'll skip any that we previously answered as duplicates. And I'll kind of just phrase the question, and then Tom will provide his answer so that everyone has the same understanding of it. So kind of the first starting one is knowing that there was approximately $35,000, at least in one of the instances, why was only $7,000 collected in restitution?
Okay, so sort of simply stated, Mass wage law has a 3-year statute of limitations. And so that full amount was smaller amounts collected from 2013 through 2023. And so at the time of the investigation, the restitution only went back for the payments made in years 2022 and 2023.
Makes sense. Let's see. The next question that we had was there anyone else identified in the audit that had received any amount of money that they were not entitled to?
So yes, that was found to sort of be a clerical error, so to speak, and that the person that received that fund did in fact have a degree in a ineligible course of study, and that that person did not was not aware that it wasn't, and nobody, there was a disconnect from whoever sort of checked the box in 2013 and what was allowed to happen up until that point.
Makes sense. And then would the town be auditing all employees that had received either a pay increase or stipend based on them having received a degree or certification?
So not will we already have, again, this investigation came after an audit in 2020, late 2023 into 24 of the police station. We've done one at fire at this point. We have a whole new process in place at HR during the onboarding process to make sure we're receiving official transcripts. And that's all part of the process that sort of came out of this situation to make sure that, you know, this doesn't happen again.
Right. And then that was similar to the next question, was that was assuming that our HR department now confirms that
Yep.
degree in the correct field of study.
Correct.
Which would happen with those transcripts, as you mentioned. The next question we basically just answered, same thing with the $7,000.
Can't do that.
Yeah, we will skip the next one. Do you think we can do number 4?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Explain.
Yeah. I think the next few are all. We can probably talk about number 4 under Kathy's list of questions, which was just whether the discipline that had been provided was in the employee's permanent files, and
Yep.
your answer to that.
Of course, yep. And again, all personnel files are now centrally located in HR. This will be sort of the overtone of this whole process going back 10, 12 years, and the real importance of having a centralized human resources department.
Right. And similarly, that was the next question as well, that we do now have the list of all of the sworn officers and their degrees, and it's all part of the records in HR and fire.
Just as kind of tangential to that, are the majority of the sworn officers holding some sort of college degree?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Might that be a bargaining point when you get to that next round of negotiations? I mean, on the school side, it's obvious you can't be
Right.
in the classroom as a paid teacher without a bachelor's degree, but in Massachusetts, you only have 5 years from the time you invoke employment under your bachelor's degree to achieve a master's degree to remain employed. I know you can't, it's mostly apples to oranges with police and fire, but it strikes me that there ought to be some kind of language in their bargaining agreements that require, if you're going to work, and many of them have some attractive salaries at the end of the year, as we've seen in our salary overview a few meetings back.
Yep.
Then ought not that come with the necessity to possess a college degree?
So,
Again, I know it's
Yeah.
not that way now, and I respect that, but it would strike me that,
right, and again, the thought of the whole thing was to sort of incentivize higher education for officers, right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to take away a benefit.
I'm not saying take,
No, I know.
If you're saying the majority of them already meet that, it would not be really, there's the official word for it, but it wouldn't harm
You mean,
majority of them. If they're already holding at least an associate's degree, and many have bachelors, I don't know if it's reasonable to think in the criminal justice
Yep.
area, unless you're working in a different sort of agency, like an FBI agent, that you might go forward with a master's degree in some sort of criminal justice realm. But I think it bears some discussion.
yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
okay, yeah.
So if I understand, Kathy, are you saying that, hey, to become a police officer in East Long Meadow, you should have at least an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree?
Yes.
And I think that's something I think most of them have.
Yeah,
Going forward, I mean, if it's one or two, then do you grandfather them? But for new hires going forward and new bargaining agreements, might that be a
yeah,
threshold?
so we've sort of gotten away from requiring anything from an applicant. It sort of shallows the pool really quickly to say, you have to have this. Because people immediately don't check that box and we have to throw away a good applicant because they didn't meet the minimum requirement. And maybe that was the only applicant we got. So we say things like preferred instead of required, right? So this is sort of an ongoing, some years we get 20 applicants, and then some years the posting sits there and we wonder why. And so we end up going through these job descriptions sort of on a rotational basis to say, is there some reason we can't get somebody to apply for this? So, but your point is taken, and these are conversations that just keep happening because everything always keeps happening. So we need to keep up, right? And so I hear what you're saying, yes.
Do you have something? If you want, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You're out here.
My seat couldn't hold me anymore. I apologize. I want to say too, that we have to keep in mind that certain professions, particularly public safety, when we look at fire and police, while we want to encourage higher learning and continued education, they're not degree-driven industries. And the majority of the education that they learn is given to them in their specific academies. So, and it's on the job training, and it's their in-service that they are going to quarterly, and all of these continued trainings that they're taking throughout their profession. A degree, while maybe, again, we want to encourage them to, because, they may gain some new insights, new whatever from it. It's really not the end all be all for these positions, because it's not what drives them. They're not, typically you don't see somebody who's like, all right, I want to be a firefighter, so I'm gonna go to school for my 4-year degree and then get out, and then I'm gonna go start looking for a firefighting job. It's more of a progression, or, you get into it and then you get trained and then you learn. So it kind of is the same for policing. So I just want, in kind of speaking to what Tom had said, that by starting to require a level of degree in any sort of fashion, then we really may be missing out on some really good candidates that are out there, because it's a service industry, and it takes a certain special kind of drive to be in that, so I just wanted to put my nickel in.
Thank you.
The next one that we had was just more of a timeline question. So under the circumstances, why was the individual promoted to a sergeant?
So he was promoted prior to this whole incident.
Makes sense. Then I think the next 3 questions were pretty simple answers to questions we already previously had. So then the next one would be, what deficiencies in the town's processes or procedures allowed for this to occur in the past.
So, no, that's fine. The easy answer again is just HR. Back then, every department was sort of siloed into taking care of their own stuff. And so there wasn't this whole pile of processes and procedures and policies that we go through all the time now. You know, it's hard to say who did what back in 2013 and why this happened or that happened. We all just have to take a little bit of the blame because we're sitting here now. That's how it is. It's hard to know what could have went wrong, that there wasn't at least a check of who's got a degree and who doesn't, and who did what and when, and who said what and when. I physically don't have those answers from way back then.
Which I think goes to your written explanation too, which we know, but for the benefit of the public, that back in 2013, when these things started, we didn't have a centralized HR department, and in fact, we didn't even really have an HR department.
Have an
at
HR
all.
department at all, then, yeah.
And that was also 3 police chiefs, 3 town managers, many town administrators, and a completely different form of government. So that's not to excuse what happened, but it is to say that there's a lot of reasons why things slipped through the cracks over the years, because a lot of things have changed. Marilyn?
Through the chair. The town's been dealing with educational incentives for our police department since 1988 to 1997. And at the time, the whole issue of the Quinn bill was out there. And, you know, we recognize the importance of recognizing that they have an education and it will improve their performance. And so the town went to bat and created our own educational incentive without the Quinn bill. And then I got off the selectmen, and the following year they gave them the Quinn bill. But the point is that this has been around for a long time. It's not like it just happened. And everyone, I mean, your sergeants, everyone knows about it. So I don't understand how it got so crazy, how it got so messed up. Just because we had changes in our government or changes in our town manager, or it's been there. It's part of, you know, every contract, I'm sure it's part of. And so I'm a little bit discouraged that this happened, but I understand that it did, and I appreciate the steps we're taking to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Connor, may I?
Sure.
So back, like you said, 13 years ago, 10 years ago, with the form of government change, the Charter Commission, when we actually analyzed the form of government we had, this was one of a lack of HR was a huge reasoning behind pushing for a change of government and pushing for different variations in departments and stuff. We were able to see it, the 9 members, and this started the whole thing, but we realized we're going to keep finding stuff over the next 10 years or more. It'll keep improving. We're going to keep getting better. But there's going to be certain items like this that pop up. And when they do, it's disappointing, but you knew it was going to happen. I mean, especially with a lack of an HR department, when we had department heads holding their own personnel files and stuff. And, you know, there was no central place to go for them. You had to go ask the person that you were reporting to. Yeah. You know, discussing or whatever in executive session, and you have to ask them for their personnel file. It was a tough way to operate, and I think everything is getting better, but we're going to have these hiccups, and that's what I'm going to call it. It was a hiccup. It was a mistake that was made, and we move forwards.
I think that's a good way to look at it too, because, I mean, there's always the potential that it would have been caught eventually, no matter what, but there's also the potential that under the old form of government, no one would have ever noticed, because there wasn't central functions to be able to audit some of these actions.
Right.
Which leads into the next question. What has the town changed to prevent this sort of thing from happening in the future?
Yeah. And again, the whole process now has been totally beefed up in HR. There's a finance component now. All this stuff is loaded into Munis, and finance won't cut the check if the documentation isn't in Munis. So it's like a checks and balances now. They're not just one person is saying, okay, you get this. All the documentation has to be there for the payroll to cut the paycheck. So it's sort of multi-layered, and everyone's looking at this more than once. And we'll decide, if there is in fact a statute of limitations that is so long that I think we should be auditing inside that window so that we're not getting to that point or outside that point. I just told them that for the first time right now, but I don't think it's going to be an issue because we have all the stuff now in the same place, and it's not going to be hard to audit this stuff, aside from a few, new hires over the years.
Thank you. And then, does the town have a consistent policy and procedure with the school department, given the education aspect?
Yes.
Kathy had mentioned?
Yep, and so I did reach out to Gordon. They have a similar procedure and process at the school that they've been operating for a while, but they also have further guidelines and guardrails that sort of prevent steps in those benefit outside of the budget cycle. So that you can't just leave for the summer and come back with a master's degree, and we don't have a budget for that. So there's other guidelines that the school has, which maybe we can sort of check in on and add that to whatever policy we're working off to. So, yes, it's a long yes.
And then probably one of the most important ones too is what is the full timeline of events? And in a concise format, because while a lot of these details may have been in the redacted report, just a bulleted list for everyone to have the same understanding. So I guess the first sub-bullet of that was, when was the first payment that should not have been made?
Yep.
That was in 2013. And then when did it end? That was 2023. When was the first signal that there may be something wrong? Or in the past?
Yeah, so and again, the investigation sort of indicates that there were some rumors of, this could be back in the spring of 2022.
And then when did the chief find out? So
Aside from rumor, there was, that audit was completed in the fall of 2023. You keep going, I don't want to.
Of course, yeah. And then when did the chief take action?
So right after that audit, the benefit was taken away from one of them, and then the other one was told that was their last year. Right.
And then when did the town manager find out?
So it didn't come to my attention. Chief forwarded me a formal complaint that somebody made to the Post Commission on March 7th, 2024. And then we immediately placed Sergeant Ingalls on administrative leave on the 7th, and then hired the investigator on March 8th to begin the investigation. That was administrative leave pending the investigation, which I guess I should clarify.
And just as a follow-up to that, I know this is something that we've talked about many a times, but seeing that you hadn't been apprised of the issue for, I don't know, depending on what you consider the fall to be, 4 to 6 months or so, until after it had already happened and had been found out by the department itself, like, that raises some red flags as well, that there's some communication breakdown between leadership at the police department versus the town manager's office.
Correct. And that those conversations have been had, and there was discipline for that as well.
And then when did the town manager take action?
Yeah, shortly after the, is that, sorry, yes,
Yes.
sorry, did Did I already answer that one? I went,
You did.
I did, I'm sorry.
Just
It was
say the
that,
question, yeah.
once I found out, immediately went to the paid administrative leave and then hired the investigator next day who was already in town handling another matter.
And then when did the discipline action take effect?
May 28th, 2024, shortly after the investigation was completed, we reviewed the findings with Labor Council, went through the conversation and meted out discipline.
And then the restitution that was paid, when was that actually paid back to the town?
Equal installments in payroll from July 2024 through July 2025. In full.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I have a question about the post commission. I never knew it existed.
Okay.
Until this. I find it interesting that they knew about everything and we didn't. Where does the information come from that goes, that the post commission is able to, with specific details?
So when the investigation is concluded, we
with you
report our findings to the post commission.
And they publish it.
And they review the process, and then it is published, any discipline that had taken place. And I will admit, I did not know that they had that list, because I think you've heard me say before that personnel issues and disciplinary things, I do not talk to you about. That is not a thing to say. Well, because we have a post commission in Massachusetts, they post those discipline right on their website, which I found out in, I think, October. Thanks, Audra. This year. I was unaware that that was something that was public knowledge up until that point.
Makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable when that happens, simply because it's like we're asleep at the switch. They all know what's going on, but we
Yes.
don't. And I understand what happened, but
And this was particularly frustrating because they had this information shortly after May 28th and didn't process and post until December of 2025. I think that there's a lot of sort of backlog, and I don't know what the review process, I don't know enough about the post commission to sort of speak intelligently about that, but it took a while, it seems, for the paperwork to be processed, and then
It's through the chair, it's a fairly new commission, so I think it was created in one of the major crime legislation or criminal justice legislation like 2020 or 2019. I might be wrong on the exact year, but this is a pretty new thing, and I think it's unique to the other, areas of our town. Like, there's not a post commission, I think, like for teachers or for other types of, it's kind of unique for our law enforcement, so.
Who makes up the post commission?
So it's a public body that the governor and the attorney general appoint to, and then there's a number of other ex officio folks that are represented. I think like the District Attorney Association is represented in that. So there's like a couple entities. And it's independent from like the public safety. It's kind of walled off in such a way where it kind of helps have these kind of investigatory powers, so that, but the downside of that is the communication aspect, I think, is a little bit lacking in terms of us not knowing about it. But the idea of it is trying to bring a little bit more accountability when situations like this or a ton of other situations have happened. I mean, they've decertified office in a few instances. That's pretty rare to my knowledge. But just as more of a sort of an accountability measure at a statewide level.
Okay.
Do you have to have any, and I don't know why I'm asking you, but it seems like you know about it.
This is one of the things that I've in my role have like helped to point people to it. So like I know a certain peripheral knowledge of it.
Do you have to have any type of like, is there any requirements for someone to be on the?
Yeah, like each seat has like certain like law enforcement sort of credentials. I think like each person has to have like certain experience or a degree in something. So like, certain seats the governor can only appoint somebody with a particular background. So it's not like composed of like, it's composed of citizens, but it's not composed of like just randoms.
Okay.
At-large citizens. So that ideally, when you're reviewing these kind of very important cases, that you're trying to have like
You have some.
each element's represented, law enforcement background, but then having, other type of criminal justice background, so that there's, I think, a balance ideally.
Sure.
Following up on that, when the post commission decertifies a police officer, what does that mean to the officer and the municipality he or she works for?
And again, somebody can correct me on this because I have kind of limited knowledge, but I think it makes it, I don't think they're able to work anymore as a police officer in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Correct.
I could be wrong, but I think that's.
Do you
Am I
want
getting
whatever?
this mostly?
Yeah, that's the gist.
I'll just come join you guys.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Jim's chair, yeah.
so generally, there's an appeals process. And then after, but if the ruling of decertification is upheld, then they are no longer to be able to be a police officer or a law enforcement agent anywhere in the US.
And there's a pretty high bar.
Yeah.
Like it makes news when one single officer gets decertified in the state.
Yeah, and in the appeals process, there's different parameters, obviously, as there usually is in this type of a thing, and it can take a while. It can take a while. There's people who've been in appeals processes since the start of the post commission, so. Other than that, your description was very good.
Great. Let's see, the next question. I think the next one is probably even more of a duplicate, but we'll just say it for, what was the process for verifying eligibility for incentive pay, for example, like the HR, police department, finance, et cetera? I think we've mostly
Yeah.
answered that before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what was the process, that's sort of an issue, but we know what the process is now, and these documents are all fully vetted through HR and finance. So and again, like everything else, we'll continue to move these policies and procedures wherever the labor world takes us.
The next one I think is a duplicate, but similar was or is there routine verification or recertification processes for degree eligibility over a 10-year period? And similarly, we weren't sure if there was or ever had been in the past, but there's a process now to.
Yes.
Which then, has the town implemented a formal audit schedule for payroll incentives across all departments, not just police?
So we've touched all the departments.
And you also mentioned that it was verified documents that are centrally retained in HR. So that answers the next one. When senior leadership became aware in spring 2022 that incentive pay might be improper, what policies governed the obligation to act immediately?
So that was just neglect of duty under the PD policy and procedure, 4.0.
Okay. Do you think we can say number 9?
No.
Okay.
These are good.
I think we pretty much talked about number 10
Right,
again,
right.
and 11. We talked about having transcripts that are official coming from the institution. How does the police department reinforce ethical obligations related to truthfulness, disclosure, and personal benefit?
So in addition to sort of revamping all of our procedures and policies through HR, there's also a whole lot of training in this area, supervisory, ethics, whatever the topic may be. And so that has really started to ramp up under our new director. And so that's a sort of how we plan moving forward to train our staff. I think everybody maybe in the past was doing the 2-year click of the button thing. Did you? Congratulations. I think these are things that we can do as a community to make sure we have all the information. And obviously, with Audra's talent and wealth of knowledge and information, we can do a lot of this in-house. So that's a huge benefit as well.
Great. And then what steps are being taken to restore public confidence following findings of conduct unbecoming and neglect of duty?
Yeah, so again, just this sort of projecting this attitude, and Audra has extensive background in public safety, community relations, humanizing the badge, community engagement, transparent processes and procedures. She's working with both chiefs already to make sure that we're out in the community and sort of building this culture that we want people to know about. A lot of things, a lot of good things are done every day by the people in the police and fire departments. So that will just continue to sort of project the good work.
And the next one was a duplicate. So what lessons from this investigation are being institutionalized townwide rather than treated as a one-off personnel matter?
So obviously, operationally, because this sort of happened a while ago, most of these things are already in place, but just having proper procedures, they're written down, doesn't matter whose turn it is to go here and do that. Everything's sort of in its spot and centrally located, and we are checking these things with regularity so that we don't look back 16 years from now and be like, whoops, we checked the wrong box back in 2026. I think, all the employees sort of working together in a way that everyone's sort of checking everyone and making sure all the work is sort of harmonious, which is kind of fun to watch. We've, like you said, we can always get better, but we have gotten a lot better, and we continue to do so and we will continue to do so as well.
Sure.
So all new hires start with Audra and her department. So that's how.
We actually start with Audra in the interview process.
Well, thank you. But the point is that, so whatever policies are established for that particular position, they will know about it. So there's no excuse that they didn't know.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And yes, everybody that comes in for a job here runs through HR until I shake their hand.
Gotcha.
Makes sense. And I think that, just as a follow-up to that last question, I think that answers it from like a auditing and HR perspective of what we're doing and how we, formalize that sort of stuff into policies and procedures moving forward. From this like specific incident and preventing those sorts of things from happening. But what about from like an overall like communications and transparency perspective? Not that any of us intentionally want to put the town in a bad light in a public setting, but it is important to report that, yes, we did find something, suppose something else happens in the future.
Yep. Well,
But we're on
again,
top of it and we're correcting it.
that's right.
rather
And
than-
so
The public only sort of finding out
that's something,
years after the fact.
correct. And that's something that I can report to you and will. At the time it happened, I was not aware that that was a public thing. I'll be perfectly honest. I would never bring personnel issues to you in an open session almost ever. But again, if something were to happen like this again, this is in the public. It's a different sort of thing. And so from a communication standpoint, that we, for this type of, in this instance, right, you shouldn't be finding out from Mass Live, you should be finding out from.
Is there any other comments or follow-up questions?
Just a quick comment.
Sure.
So again, this is something that happened 3 years ago, it's just now coming to light. I just want the public to understand that when it was identified, we did an audit, we researched it, we did our appropriate due diligence, we handled the matter, we did everything that we possibly could. Again, the one negative part is it looks like we're not being transparent, that, all of a sudden an article comes out to show it. Again, that's unfortunate, but it is one of those that we've learned from. Our HR department is on top of it. We've adjusted policies, we've adjusted procedures, and we're trying to do everything possible so something like this doesn't ever happen again. It started with a different form of government, and now we're catching up and correcting things, so.
I think to add to that, there is never an intention from the town or this council to hide anything or make it seem like anything's being covered up. But it is a difficult balance as well, especially in employment matters and what we can legally share versus what we can't share. Even though there's a lot of things we wish we could talk about and say at the moment. But that said, it is still certainly an opportunity that we recognize and want to be even more transparent in the capacities in which we can for incidents that happen going forward, because we don't want to talk about things 2 years after they happen.
Right.
But with that, there certainly is a vigilant eye and corrective action had been taken, and things will continue to be looked at under a microscope in the future.
Fair enough.
Anything else? Okay, if there's nothing else, action items for our next meeting. We may have some answers to the additional questions that we posed about the oil tank.
Have a report from the licensing subcommittee on the, tomorrow, yeah, Thursday, on the comparative study of alcohol license fees in the area.
Great, thank you, Kathy.
And I am hopeful that we can have a general bylaw committee meeting in between, and move that forward.
Cafe 1:30 on Thursday.
Okay. With that, we may have an update, hopefully, with the two the two ballot questions that we had talked about in previous meetings. I know when I had talked with Tom about it last week, preparing for the meeting, Jesse was out of the office for the week, so we weren't able to make as much progress as we had hoped, but hopefully by March 10th, we'll have some updates there. Otherwise, the other things that we had listed in our calendar, we had already done, because we already had the employee wages updated previously, and the financial audit had already been delivered to us, so we'll see what else gets added with those things I have penned in.
Okay.
We may have a few financial matters.
I'm sure we'll have some things, based on some of the discussions we've talked about, but as of now, that's it. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 8:19. Thank you.
Thank you.